What is up, everyone? So today we're going to be talking about one of my favorite things to do on the W211, and that is wiring. So I have done wiring on this car once, and this is my second time doing it. So I'm sure that I'm not going to screw up, but I did anyways. And the number one reason being is that I didn't read the manual. I didn't read the manual for the MS3 Pro and MS3 Pro Mini. And that's because I thought I had it figured out in my head, but turns out I didn't. So I wired in for a sensor that I can't use because the ECU doesn't know how to process the signal that comes from this sensor, and that renders the whole wiring part, the very neatly done wiring, useless. I can go more on about this, but if you have any questions regarding sensors and whatnot, I would suggest that you contact DIY Autotune if you're using a Megasquirt and ask them what and what not. Because I'm no expert, I'm just a car guy just like you. I just make videos on how I'm doing this stuff. So I don't know anything. I know just as much as you guys. So yeah. So what did I do wrong? Well, as you can see here, I have all my injectors here, and from the middle I have this. This was going to be for a knock sensor on the block down there where my bracket is, but turns out the ECU doesn't know how to decode a knock sensor, so I need a knock module, blah 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 blah. Again, you can ask questions if you have any questions regarding this topic, but I would suggest that you ask the experts, DIY Autotune. So what else did I do wrong? Well, you have your injectors. You have 1, 2, 3, 4. In this case, at least. I'm out of breath. So, what I did was I was very tired. It was a long day, and I screwed up the order of the injectors. I have A, B, C, D, A, B, C, and D. What you're supposed to do is put A here, B there, C, and D. What I did, I reversed them. I'm hoping that I can do some magic in the ECU to tell it that in injector A is cylinder 4 and injector D is cylinder 1. I'm hoping. If not, I have to redo my wiring and cut it up and splice in some new wires and do all shits and giggles, which I do not want to do. So, I'm crossing my fingers. Well, the next thing is I forgot that the ECU doesn't have any positive outputs for fan relays. You have to trigger the relay from the negative side. So, I did something wrong. What I did was I pulled out the it's a long way down. I took the 12-volt switch for the fan control, and I prepared it so it was ready for a wire from the ECU. Well, I'm gonna have to trigger it from the negative side, but the fuse and relay box that I have doesn't actually have a negative side output. It only has I'm out of breath. It only has one, you can't see. It only has one ground wire. And that's because in this pre-made box of relays and fuses, it has all of the grounds and the positive sides connected to 1 or 2 wires. And the reason being is ease of installation. Well, if you're going to triggering a relay from the negative side, you're gonna have to do something different. Oh, there's a fly in here. Oh, shit. Not a fly. Well, what you need to do if you're going to be using a fan and controlling it with your Megasquirt is you're going to have to get a separate relay. If you're using a relay box, that is. If you're using just 4 or 5 separate relays that's not in a box and has a built-in fuse like this one, no problem. So I'm going to be wiring a... So, what am I going to do? Well, I'm going to take this. Where the fuck did it go? I'm going to take the separate relay and I'm gonna wire it as you would normally, but with the exception of the ground side, I'm going to attach it to a injector output on the Mega Squirt or the MS3. It's still a Mega Squirt, so yeah, that's how we're gonna do that. So I don't know how in depth you guys want this to be, but so if it's going too fast, I will slow down just a little bit. But I actually told you guys that I was going to be doing this as fast as possible. Not meaning that I'm going to be talking as fast as possible, but I will go over it as quick as possible before I start rambling about other shit. So, let's go into the car. Let me just... Oh, there's not enough lighting. Alright, so I'm sorry for all the shadows, but inside of the car I'm going to be putting my glove... I will be putting my glove box back in the glove box compartment, and my ECU will be in there. I made a hole for all the wiring, and all the unused wiring I will be wrapping it up like this and terminating all the ends with some heat shrink to make sure I don't have any connectivity inside of my glove box. From the ECU and going over to my tachometer, I have this injector H, which can be used for a tach output. I'm hoping that my tachometer, or the 190 tachometer, is going to be triggered off a square wave signal, which comes from the ECU and not a high output, not a high current signal. I can't really remember all the terms and shit, but there's two different tachometers. There's one driven by the negative side of the coil, which is, I think, a high current signal, high current output something, and then you have a square wave signal from an ECU or an electronic device, as just like my ECU. So yeah. Oh, okay, and also I will be wiring my gauges, my 3 gauges, my 4 gauges, and my fuel pump. My fuel pump, wideband sensor, and my gauges are going to be driven off the same relay, and they're going to be triggered by the fuel pump wire. If it won't focus, it don't want to focus, but the fuel pump relay wire will be triggering one relay that's going to be controlling all of that inside of the car, and it's going to be triggering another relay that's going to be controlling my coil and injectors and TPS and flex fuel sensor. Whew, that's a lot of stuff. I'm hoping it's not too fast, but I do have to keep the pace up to be able to not ramble as much. I'm going to be putting stuff the same way it used to be. So my coil is going to be here. My TPS is still going to be over there because I didn't change anything on my manifold. I will be using a oil temperature sensor in my oil pan, which is wired to this one right here. I have connected my ECU to a oil pressure sensor, because in case that I lose oil pressure, I want the ECU to be able to tell the engine to actually cut or shut off, so I don't go in high RPMs with low oil pressure. It's basically a safety measure. So if I'm on track and the oil is sloshing around the oil pan and the baffling is not enough, I will have a safety measure in the ECU to tell the engine to actually stop taking RPMs. So I hope I can do that. If not, then my ECU just know my oil pressure and that's it. So yeah, the boost controller is also gonna be controlled by an injector output. So I only have injector G left to control any negative side output somewhere in the car, but I don't see that as an issue because I don't need any more sensors or anything, so I'm hoping that's good. So yeah, I think that's it. So let's do a quick run over on what happened here, and there's so much stuff, yo. So what happened? Well, coil, injectors, TPS, and flex fuel sensor are going to be driven off the same relay. So I just spliced the positive side of the relay into like all the different places that it has to go, because I'm confident that the relay will draw all of these components, all of these sensors with no issue. Because I'm not sure that a coil, 4 injectors, a TPS sensor, and a flex fuel sensor is going to be drawing 40 amps. If they are, then I need to find a bigger relay or do some different wiring, but I don't see it as a big issue. So what else? Well, I did use an old sensor, the temperature sensor for my temperature gauge inside of the speedometer, which is this one. Let me just pull it up. This 3-pin sensor has this 1-pin, fucking focus. This 1-pin connector, which sits right there. It's a green wire, and that green wire goes all the way inside of the speedometer, or well, the cluster. You just actually need to hook this wire up to the wire inside of the cluster, and you have your working temperature gauge, which is nice. So what else? I hooked up the TPS the way it's supposed to hook up. There's nothing magical about that. The injectors is also hooked up the way they should. They don't have polarity, so it really doesn't matter, but try and keep it uniform all the way. So you have positive on left, negative on right. Just to keep everything the same and organized, just for OCD purposes. I'm still out of breath. Temp sensor, doesn't matter which way you wire it, but again, keep it like either one or the other side. Oh yeah, the coil. So I'm using a coil that's a logic drive coil from a Volkswagen Golf, and so that basically means that I don't need a high ignition output on inside my ECU. I can use the logic drive channels, which is what this coil is driven off. We can go more in depth, but basically what it means is that I can drive my coil directly from the ECU, and I don't need a 4-channel driver or something, ignition driver, a separate module that drives the ignition coil, just like an EDIS module or something. Yeah. Stuff like the fuel pump is just driven by the fuel pump relay trigger from the ECU. Goes to a relay, goes to the fuel pump. It has a ground. So, what do I mean with all of this fast talking and rambling about this and that and my mistakes and all of this? Well, it means that all of the wiring from DIY Autotune or the Mega Squared, the terminated harness, or not the terminated harness, but the harness you get with the ECU is all labeled, so it's pretty straightforward where to put all of the things. It even says on the back of the ECU which pin goes to where, so that's not really an issue. The issue is the relays, all of the switch 12 volt sources and the grounds and all of that. So you have some power grounds. Power grounds go to the engine. I just wired my power grounds to the cylinder head on that bolt right there. They're not on yet because the wiring is all loose. It's not fully done yet. Well, because I mentioned all of this stuff earlier. And you have sensor grounds. You have one sensor ground, and that one sensor ground has to be connected to all of the sensors. You can either put it on some kind of power block, which is these you see right here. This is a power block. Oh, there's so much shit in the way. this is a power block. This is basically a station where you have positive connections. You have 12 volt right here, plus 12 volt. And it's separate. Even though it looks like it's connected to the chassis, it's actually not. It's separate from the chassis, so you can use the chassis as your ground, and then this as a switched 12 volt source for whatever. You just have to pick the. Let me open it. You just have to know which of these you're gonna use. I'm thinking this is the switch 12 volt, and this is a constant 12 volt, and also this one. So that you can do with your sensor grounds. I think you can get like one of these and use as a sensor ground somewhere in the engine bay, like over there, back there, and then you can pull your sensor grounds from there. For stuff like the coolant temperature sensor, the intake temperature sensor, your TPS sensor, your crank position sensor, and so on and so forth. Just use common sense. Like, connect your wiring properly, read the manual, and connect A to 1 and B to 2, C to 3, D to 4. Not like me with my injector harness, like here. So on and so forth. So, the relays, the magical relays. You're gonna use a relay for your ECU, you're gonna use a relay for your fans, a relay for your coils, and so on and so forth. You can put these in series, like the switch 12 volt source can be shared between the relays. You just want them to kick on whenever they have to kick on. So you don't have them kicking on like at the same time and your fan is going on and pulling so much current and shit starts sparking and blowing everywhere. No. You want stuff to turn on when it has to turn on, like at the right time, so you don't pull as much current through all of your wiring. It's kind of simple, but it's not at the same time. So what I would suggest is read a manual, go through some wiring diagrams, take your time, take some deep breath. Not like me, start yapping and rambling all the time, not catching air. And just take your time, take your dear sweet time, and if you're tired, go to bed. Don't be like me and stay up all night and do some wiring and fucking it up and have to call people to fix it and all of that. So yeah, I hope it's good enough for you guys. If not, just let me know in the comments or on Instagram, and I will answer as honestly and as transparent as I possibly can, and at the best of my ability, and we'll figure it out. So until next time, have a good day, and I'll see you. Bye.